Good morning, everybody. Welcome to your Rangers Review morning briefing. It is Wednesday, the 23rd of April. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined by Stevie Clifford. How goes it, Stevie?
Yeah, good morning, Derek. Good morning, everyone. I'm good. Good this morning-ish. As good as I can be.
Before we get stuck right in, I'm keen to get your thoughts on a number of Rangers issues. Lots of news doing round, of course, and you were in Bilbao, of course, last week. Before we get stuck right in, quick word for our podcast sponsors, S1 Jobs. If it's time to hand in your transfer request, head over to S1 Jobs and upload your CV today. With thousands of jobs across Glasgow, Edinburgh, and the surrounding areas, you'll find the one at S1 Jobs. And just a bit of admin, folks, if you want to get your comments into me and Stevie this morning, remember, you have to hit that subscribe button. You need to be a subscriber to the channel. It's totally free. Just if you're wondering why your comment isn't appearing in the chat. Well, before we talk about sporting directors, Bailey Rice and what have you, Stevie, you were in Bilbao last week. You were there for the day, weren't you, over there at the game? What was your experience like, and your thoughts on what was ultimately a really disappointing end to our Europa League campaign?
Yeah, I went over with Sport Options on the overnight trip, and it was really good. Saw a lot of Bilbao, done some sightseeing, so we went up the funicular railway, went and saw the big colourful poppy, went to the Guggenheim, and they're next to each other, so that kind of killed two birds with one stone. And as you walked round, it kind of took you towards the trajectory of the ground anyway. So we found a wee outside pub area where we could sit in, and I met lots of nice faces. We shout out to the guys from back home in Fort William that I met. I met Ian Green, Big Duncan Johnston, Mikey, all my friends from back home. So it was great to see these guys, and the amount of people that stopped me and said they really enjoy the platform of Rangers Review and my own platform of Four Lads was excellent. So thoroughly enjoyed meeting loads of nice faces over there, and I didn't have any negative experience out and around the ground or anything like that. Obviously the performance was really disappointing. I just don't think we got going at any point. And I think that when you really wanted that bit of composure and that bit of quality on the ball, we just didn't have it on the night. Were we heavily treated with regards to officiating? I think we were. I think there's two really good shouts there, but you know what? In the midst of it, Bilbao were the better side, and we wish them well going forward. But I can't help but think that these things can turn on a knife edge. That Dessers thing should have been a penalty, but we didn't turn up, Derek, and I think that's the most disappointing thing. I think that our tenacity just ran out, and we just weren't good enough on the ball, and that was the most disappointing thing about the night overall. And I think that if we had done better, then I don't think selections helped. Substitutions definitely didn't help. But all that, is I think it's been covered really well by you guys on this channel, and not much to go over. But overall, as regard to a city and stuff like that, then yeah, it was a nice viewing. I enjoyed seeing so many familiar faces, and as I said a couple of weeks ago, really got the bug for the away end trips and stuff like that. So I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was a cracking city. It was bonkers. I mean, I left my apartment at about 5:30 in the morning to get my first of two flights back.
And it's still on the streets and stuff.
Yeah, it was still mobbed with fans.
Do you know, it's like a festival over there. Like it starts in midday on match day, and they're all head to toe full kits, just everywhere. Just sing songs.
Anything like it. Yeah,
and then by the time we walked back, got something to eat. It was mid-morning because it was a 9 o'clock kickoff, and they were still out and partying and everything else. And that kind of side of it was an eye opener for me. How much it was a proper, like almost like a holiday, like a public holiday thing. But I think United will beat them in the semis. So we'll wait and see.
Yep, of course, as Paul says, I mentioned yesterday on our little news bulletin, if Bilbao win the Europa, Rangers...
Yeah, we do want them to win it, don't we, because of that?
Yeah, so Rangers would move from the league path to the Champions path if because Bilbao look like they're going to get the Champions League football anyway in La Liga. If they win that Europa, then Rangers move up, given their coefficient ranking, to that Champions path. It means they play one less qualifying round. So, Rangers would benefit if that were to be the case. Let's move on then. News you'd have seen, pardon me, the old frog in the throat there. Rangers closing in on the appointment of a sporting director. Kevin Thelwell, who is the current Everton director of football, he's leaving at the end of his contract this summer, 51 years of age. And he's also worked with the New York Red Bulls as their head of sport, was previously at Wolverhampton Wanderers as well. And he's said to have already visited the Rangers training centre and met members of the club's hierarchy. So, he looks to be in the driving seat to being appointed as new sporting director. Interestingly, Patrick Stewart conducts the fans forum tonight. It'll be interesting to see what comes from that. Joshua or Chris will be in attendance for us. Rangers have, of course, been without a sporting director since the departure of Ross Wilson back in early 2023. But Kevin Thelwell seems to be the man, Stevie. I can't say I know too much about him, but by all accounts, going by reports from those on the Everton side, he seems to have done a pretty decent job down there.
Do you know, I've got my wish, Derek, and my first wish for this appointment was that we actually appoint somebody with history and with a knowledge of doing that job. He's a sporting director, and we're appointing him as sporting director. Wow, it's almost
it's a miracle.
It's almost like forward thinking. We've not went and got, the guy that scouts and suddenly made him head of everything. So, listen, I'm really pleased at that side of it. I can't claim to be a huge knowledgeable person about what he's done, but in the last 12 hours or so since that news broke, I have looked into it. I have read a few of the Everton kind of fan media, and they're quite positive about him. They seem to think that he's done a really solid job. Questionable signings here and there, which, everybody's going to get, but they also say he's made some really good ones. I think he's got a really good positive transfer record in terms of he's taken in 224 million and spent 144. There's a 80-odd million pound positive for him in that way, and all the trajectories of financial side of it, and because they were in trouble. They had a lot of problems with financial fair play and everything else when he came in, and I think the overall opinion, Derek, seems to be really quite positive around this guy, that he's done a very steady job in terms of Everton. You were never ever going to get you're never ever going to get somebody from Everton in the situation they're in as a club, and you go down and read reviews of this guy's job and he says, oh, wonderful, we spent that 90 million brilliantly and stuff like that. He's fishing in a market that's really traditionally quite difficult as well, and he'll face those same challenges up here. But what it is somebody with experience. It's somebody with knowledge of the position, which is very important. It's somebody with knowledge of challenges surrounding the football club and having to get things back properly working, because that's another thing. The dynamic of the reporting down at Everton and surrounding him seems to be, and it's just really important that he's got Everton back on a stable and on the right track. And I'm not suggesting he has to come up here and do that as such, Derek, but he faces a similar challenge, if not on the same scale, because Everton were leaking all sorts of money, weren't they? They had problems with owners. They had to oversee a takeover, oversee going into a new environment in their new stadium and everything like that. And he's managed to negotiate all these things and leave it in quite a solid position. And anybody doing that, I think we can sit and be, I think, encouraged by his background somewhat. And I'm not saying, look, I don't know enough about him. That's first. But what I've read on him, the opinion of him seems to be quite quietly solid, in that he's a 7 out of 10 guy in a really difficult position. And fans are notoriously difficult to placate, let's say. and I think most of them seem to speak quite highly of him. So it's all quite positive for me in terms of the search on him and the kind of job he's done. So, he ticks a lot of the boxes, and we'll just need to wait and see. But the positive is we're moving on for me, where we're going to appoint somebody that's experienced. We're going to appoint somebody in the role that's done similar jobs at similar level clubs and things like that. So, yep. I'm not negative about this one, Derek, although I would say quietly optimistic is the right way to look at this.
Yeah, he seems to have a decent track record. Ewan with the point says he's on the VSI Sporting Directors podcast, which is worth a watch. So there you go, a recommendation for that if you want to learn more about him. At Wolves, of course, he was part of the time there when they recruited guys like Diego Jota, Ruben Neves, Adama Traore, Leander Tendonker, Connor Cody. And Wolves had a magnificent time there. Went from England's third tier to win the Championship, and then, of course, back in the Premier League. And they had a great spell there. At the time, of course, I mentioned there the New York Red Bulls. They had the youngest squad in the MLS at the time. And Everton played a role in the signings of the likes of Idrissa Gueye, James Tarkowski, Iliman Ndiaye, Dwight McNeil, Amadou Onana, who they sold to Villa for £50 million after being bought in for £33 million. James Garner, Jake O'Brien, Beto as well, all being regarded as successful acquisitions at Everton. So I think he's got a decent track record of being able to move players on for profit, which is something we've been crying about for a number of seasons now. So, an interesting appointment, one to keep an eye on, but by all accounts, Rangers closing in on that one. So I think the sporting director is a big appointment, Stevie. Would you say more so than a manager at this point in time, getting that in place, getting the structure in place, and then looking towards the appointment of a new manager, then, of course, subsequently, new players that have to come in over the course of the summer? Is the sporting director appointment the key one?
Yes, and here's why. And here's Stevie's new favourite buzzword of recent weeks, Derek, is the infrastructure of the football club. We need to get that set and right so that by the time a new manager comes in, we have the academy in place, we have the sporting director in place, we have the commercial guys in place. So when the manager comes in, they shake his hand, sit him down, and his priority is, there's the training pitch, there's your squad, here's the transfer list that we need in and out, etc. Here's where your main things are. Sporting director, shake his hand, you meet this guy. He's going to be the one that looks after the contracts, looks after everything else, looks after the football inside, and your main priority, please, is just go and concentrate on the football pitch. And we have to get that all in place in time for the new manager coming in. So, yes, I'm just trying to read that.
It's Leonardo. He's a big Rangers fan over in Rome. So he's a big Rangers.
Who's his Italian team though, Derek?
Well, who is your Italian team, Leonardo? Let us know, please, in the comments.
Because we are obviously Team Napoli over here, aren't we?
And I've heard that they could be looking at acquiring Lewis Ferguson as well, which would be quite incredible.
Can you imagine that the Scots on tour over there?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
So sporting director, absolutely imperative Rangers get that right. Talking about players, one player who is in the building already, and you may have seen on the website this morning, folks, Rangers said to be looking to reward Bailey Rice with a new contract to extend his stay at Ibrox. Now, his current deal runs out in the summer of 2026. So similarly to Nico Rasking, entering into the final 2 years of his deal. Talks said to be at a preliminary stage, but it's expected that he will be looking to extend his stay in Glasgow. Now, there is interest in him from clubs, which I would imagine is unsurprising. I think it's important Rangers tie Bailey down. Stevie, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Nico Raskin's 2027, isn't he? And Bailey Rice is 2026.
Yeah.
So just in case anyone,
I thought it was
yeah,
2024 there.
no, just in
Fourth
case
year.
anyone gets onto you and panics a wee bit, Bailey
Puts
Rice
me up.
is,
Yeah.
Bailey Rice. So listen, I actually agree with Barry. Barry says that Bailey Rice is a wee bit behind schedule, and he's a wee bit behind in his development. I actually agree with that. Spoke about Bailey Rice for a very long time, and he's got all the attributes and all the potential in the world, in my opinion, to make it as a Rangers player. He's a different kind of player than Nico Raskin if we're comparing the two. He's very much a sitter, and I would, if people are looking for an example of what he's like in terms of players in recent seasons, look at the job that Stephen Davis did and Glenn Kamara did when they used to sit as sixes, and they were used very much. I remember Michael Beale and Stephen Gerrard talking about the kind of pivot position where the guys would control the midfield and play it off to the more creative one. That's very much as I see Bailey Rice. I don't see him quite as a central midfielder as such as a deep line six where he can control the game and be the kind of playmaker. That's where I see him. I think he's got a lovely range of passing. I think he's got a lovely left foot. He can dig in, he can tackle, but he likes time on the ball, Derek. And he likes to get his head up and play passes. We've seen a couple of examples of that at Old Trafford. And I thought he did well in the home game to Balbeo as well. But he has to be more robust. He has had a couple of starts, or he's come on at Dundee, and he's had that game against Balbeo where he picked up wee knocks and he's went off. So he has to get used to men's football. I think that's fair. He has to get used to the rough and tough of that. And he also, and we also need to help progress him and coach him to the next level. So it's a massive positive that we're sitting down with him. He's a Rangers fan. I think he'll be fine with regards to renewing. It's definitely a good thing for the club. But whoever comes in has to have an eye on Bailey Rice and progressing him and making sure that he makes the steps that he should be making in future years. If we consider him a wee bit behind the now and the current manager, Barry Ferguson, does, then we need to make sure whoever's coming in progresses him in the way he should. I think that's fair.
I agree. I would like to see him play a real role in the Rangers team next season. I mean, he's 18 now. He'll be 19 in October, but he's had to be patient as well and bide his time for opportunities. I would like to have seen him play more than what he has done this season. Certainly with the final 5 games of the season, if he's fit and available, I'd be starting him in each and every game. And that goes for a number of the young lads as well that are knocking on the door. Luke with an interesting point says, I wouldn't be surprised if Rice rejected the offer, overlooked a lot this season when he was fit. Yeah, listen, whoever comes in as manager, I've said it before, I'd like to see a real nucleus of young Scottish players in that Rangers team. You look at successful Rangers teams of the past, they always have that Scottish contingent in there. You look at the current setup, you've got John Souttar there, Liam Kelly, of course, who's taken over as the number 1. If that remains the case next season, who knows? That aside, there's not really Connor Barron, someone, bit of a bit part player, you could say. Not too many others. I know Lyle Cameron is coming in the summer, but guys like Bailey Rice, you want a Rangers team to be packed with guys like that. Would you agree with that, Stevie?
Yeah, we've spoken about it a long time. Just on Luke's comment there, I'm the exact opposite. I would be very surprised if Bailey Rice didn't renew and tie his future down at Rangers. I know how he feels about the club, so I'd be extremely surprised if that was the case. I'm not going to use the word formality because he'll want guarantees. But I do think it's a positive, that's for sure. With regards to a Scottish contingent, we've spoken about it for a long time, haven't we? We have. I remember talking about guys like Watson at Kilmarnock. We spoke about Josh Campbell at Hibs. We spoke about Connor Barron for such a long time at Aberdeen. And we spoke about Derek. It seems like not only this time last year, but years before that we've went on about trying to pinch the best and local Scottish talent. So I thoroughly agree with it. I think every successful Rangers team in modern history, and whilst I've been watching them, has always had a background of Scottish players. And even when you look at early Walter sides, you look at guys like Davy Robertson, Andy Gorham, these were ones that Walter came in and immediately signed. Stuart McCall, Ian Ferguson's were already there, but these were all a backbone of that squad. You look at Walter, even Dick Advocaat he still kept around Gordon Dury, he still kept around Derek McInnes, Ian Ferguson, he brought in Neil McCann, Colin Henry. And then you look at Walter's team where he'd done 3 in a row and he brought in so many. He had the Whitakers, the Broadfoots, David Weir, Kevin Thompson, Kenny Miller, Chris Boyd. So there was always a nuclear of Scots wherever you looked. And I think that's the case. And even, in Stephen Gerrard's early reign, he kept around Andy Halliday and stuff because he knew how important these guys were in the dressing room. And that's no disrespect to Andy Halliday, who's a fine footballer. And I'm not saying that's the only reason he got kept in, not at all. But I'm just saying that we shouldn't underestimate the dynamic of these guys and why they're such a huge thing in the dressing room as well. And it's, I still think we should be looking at Lawrence Shankland for these exact reasons. Not as a first choice, not as a second choice, but you're looking for a third and fourth choice striker, somebody that can mix in to the squad and integrate themselves, and people know how important it is to play for Rangers. I'd be looking at somebody like Lawrence Shankland who can come in and do that role and do it quite well. So, because one thing we have learned this season is we've relied far too much on Cyril Dessers, and we need more squad depth up front. Yeah. And you look at Stephen Gerrard, even when he came in, he wanted 4 strikers, didn't he? He talked about it all the time, 4 strikers. We don't have 4 strikers, and half the time, the last couple of years, we barely had anyone available to play up front. It's always been Cyril, really. So I don't see why we shouldn't be looking at a kind of Bosman dealing for him based on the fact that of those reasons that we've discussed. So we can talk about his ability and things like that. Yeah, absolutely. But a contract like that on a free, we should be looking to pick up the best talent that's about. And Lawrence Shankland certainly would understand what it's like to play for Rangers, that's for sure. So that's why I've always been an advocate of that kind of move, Derek, and I've always spoke up kind of speaking about Lawrence Shankland and my thoughts behind him, not as a first choice, not coming in as our number 9 sign, not coming in as our second, but as a squad player and being able to pitch in, then I definitely think Lawrence Shankland's got something to offer. And also the other way to look at it and how I feel about it is you'd be able to divvy up Lawrence Shankland's games and pick and choose and stuff like that. And I think he would be able to, as his career begins to get to the tail end of it and into that kind of period, less games, and I think he'd be more impactful as well. So these are the kind of things that I believe we should be looking at, definitely to pick up Scottish talent for European quota and things like that as well. And I know that'll be divisive, and I don't mind that in the slightest. I think but that would be my reasoning for going to do it and looking at these kind of things.
On a freebie, I can understand the reasoning there, almost a la Rod Wallace style. You never really the headlines when Rangers were splashing the cash when Advocaat came in, but he made a right good impact over there's a couple of seasons, wasn't he, Rod Wallace? Best Bosman signing for me that Rangers have brought in. But I can understand the reasoning behind that. I think Rangers will need, if you'd imagine, Dessers will probably leave. Danilo question marks over. Iggaman.
Danilo with 3 years left. They might decide to put him out on loan to get 6 months or a year of solid football before he can come back, because he needs that. So that I'm not saying that will happen. I'm saying that might be the road to go down. If you consider that Cyril, I think, is 31 next birthday, and there'll be money interest in him, they'll move him on.
Yeah.
And then who have you got left? Iggaman, who is a young boy, will need help. You'll still need to sign another striker. So you get Iggaman, a big number 9 coming in, possibly to be your first choice, and then you would bring in somebody else, wouldn't you? And you're looking for a Defoe style of that player.
Yeah.
But you can't get guys like that. I mean, I still find it incredible that we signed Jermaine Defoe, and he was absolutely unbelievable for Rangers. His ability was second to none. His goal scoring and everything, his attitude. You've seen what people said about Jermaine Defoe around the place and everything else. I'm not saying that Lawrence Shankland is Jermaine Defoe. I'm saying we would go and try and get somebody like Jermaine Defoe, but where do you get these guys? Because they're so difficult. So you want somebody with experience, somebody that knows the league, somebody that knows about Rangers, somebody that fits all that bill, and you would need to try and go and get them. But we've got a lot of work to do in the summer, and we need to be a bit sensible. You need to take some risks. And listen, I get that it's completely divisive. There'll be some people that say he's not good enough and everything else. But when you look at the whole, I'm not saying as our first, second, third choice. I'm talking about getting the right people in amongst the club and that Scottish contingent that we spoke about at the start, Derek. Absolutely. It's not like we can go and get the Napoli boys, is it? So we need to think.
No, that
think
ship sailed,
properly.
Stevie. Yeah.
Well, it is for the moment. I'm still hopeful the wee man will come back at some point. But for the moment, yeah, we're not getting them. So what can we do? Who can we get? You know what I mean? And we have to spend a lot of money in the summer, Derek. We're going to have to juggle a lot of things. So some of these things, I think you just need to be a wee bit practical with. I'm not saying, by the way, I'm not saying give him a 4-year contract on big money. I'm not talking like that either. So let's be sensible about it.
I like this in terms of we've had some suggestions coming in of players Rangers should be looking to target striker wise. Ross and one or two others as well says Jamie Vardy for a season.
Now,
He'd
listen,
score for fun up here.
See when we're talking about Jermaine Defoe, right? In my head, Jamie Vardy fits that exact bill, but he's absolutely fantastic. Veteran stage, leadership, everything you would want about him, absolutely. Would he come up here as he finished at Leicester? He would easily get a club. They'll be lining up for him down south.
He loves it down there, though.
It would depend on who came in as manager, because Jermaine Defoe came for one person only, didn't he? Would Jamie Vardy do similar, or could we get that type of player? Then I think that's the name that would spring to mind. Whether it's realistic or not, it's not realistic at this moment in time, not for sure. But if you get a takeover, if you get a certain somebody coming in as manager, I think that opens up things that might not have been possible before.
Interesting. Get Claudio Ranieri in, is what I say, and then he'll get the best out of Jamie Vardy. Yeah, interesting shout, that one. A few comments coming in. Let's get to Leonardo gets back in touch about his favourite team. He says Rangers first and foremost. Correct answer, Leonardo.
Doesn't answer the question, Leonardo. Come on.
He's a big Rangers man, is Leonardo. We need to get out there sometime. We need to do a show out there in Italy, because and get Leonardo on the show. That would be absolutely sensational. We touched on it earlier. King Charles Spaniel says, will the Rangers review the CEO forum this evening? Yet Joshua or Chris will be there in attendance for us, and we may record a show afterwards. It depends when it finishes. It might be a late job, but we plan to bring you what the big talking points that are said at this event. Are you going yourself, Stevie?
Yes, and I'll be reporting for my own channel, Four Lads to the Dream, which will be available, and I'll be doing a podcast show on it. Yeah. So I'll meet the boys there. 7 o'clock, isn't it? So we're not allowed to report live. From it. So you'll maybe not hear the updates officially until around about 9 o'clock. I would say is a fair 8:30, 9 o'clock. I think's fair when you'll start seeing it on social media channels. But we're not allowed to live tweet. We're not allowed to do any word-for-word updates or anything like that. But we are allowed to talk about the key events after the fact, which I think is fair to those that are there. It's not a media event. It's not anything like that. So Rangers have very kindly allowed us to view as supporters, and then we can talk about it afterwards. So I think that's very fair of them. Yeah.
I can tell you Leonardo's get back in touch. We've got an Italian team here, Stevie. First of all, I'll ask you, can you guess who it is?
Well, he said Rome, didn't he? So I'm going to say Roma is probably the biggest guess.
So he says, Stevie, I have a great spot for Lazio, the first ever club founded in Roma, but my first love is Glasgow Rangers. So there you go.
What a boy. Well, I'm out, Derek. I'm going out to Naples at the end of the year. So tell Leonardo to get across to Naples and we'll film a Rangers review from the waterside. Because it's absolutely, remember Napoli and the beach and all that kind of stuff. Well, see, when Billy's away training and all that, I'll be down there. And plus the Christmas markets and all that, I'm going to be like I'm going to be like Santa at Christmas, and it will be Christmas time. So tell Leonardo you're very welcome to come and join me, and we'll get the Italian papers in front of us, and we'll do the old style. That's it. We'll do that, and it'll be a lot of fun. So yeah, I would love to meet him if he was over. I don't know, my geography of these things are terrible. How far is Rome to Naples and all that kind of stuff? But that's where I'll be, Derek. I'm going to see the wee fella at the end of the year, so I'm really looking forward to that. So maybe one day I'll meet Leonardo.
Yeah, Lazio would be my team if I were to pick of the two Rome sides. I've got some Lazio gear, actually. Paul Gascoigne loyal, that's what I say to that. We'll just wrap up with this, Stevie. Of course, we're at the stage of the season where kit leaks are doing the rounds on social media, and there was an image doing the rounds yesterday of an apparent Rangers away kit. I'll flash up the image on the screen here. I've seen many comments saying, well, not too enamoured by what Rangers may be wearing next season. Interestingly, Umbro on the jersey. Your initial thoughts, if this is indeed the case, the away shirt?
Well, Derek, I'm in a bit of a difficult spot here, being an affiliate for Castor and an affiliate that'll move over to Umbro and things like that. So, yeah, I think it's very nice.
On first, I need to see it in real life. It looks a bit plainy for me. I wasn't blown away with when I seen it, but I'll give it a chance. I'll have
Based
a look at
on the 1985 top, Derek.
Yeah. It looks a bit. Says it looks a bit baggy, but again, it's hard to judge on that image. So yeah, we'll give it a chance. But favourite Rangers away kit, Stevie, of all time for you?
I am not meaning to sound bad when I say this, but you feel better with kits on how successful they are.
Oh yeah,
aren't you? And that's how you really remember them. I'm quite a traditional guy. I like my home top to be blue, my away top to be white, and them to be similar kind of styles. My favourite ever Rangers tops is the 95 tops or sorry, I beg your pardon, the 93 to 95 tops where it's Adidas 3 stripes, and the home one was blue with a red collar, and the away one was white with a blue collar. They were my favourite.
93.
Yeah, so they're my
yeah.
They were my kind of favourite ones. Ones that I quite liked when I was growing up. I quite liked the one that Advocaat's second season. I think it was blue, black, and then white underneath.
Yes. Yeah. It was light blue, navy blue, and then white.
Something like that. And the NTL one, I quite like that one, but that's based on 1985. The third strip's quite interesting. That's all I'm going to say.
Can you reveal any? Can you give us a clue?
No.
Third kit should be outrageous for me. Don't really mind what you.
It's funny you should say that, but so I like that, but the absolute truth of it is that I don't really get up nor down on tops. I don't wear them, Derek.
Nah.
They get sent out to me. I really liked the Heritage top last year. Really liked that. I thought
should have been the home kit for me. Should have been an all-season job.
I've had that on a couple of times, but around the house and lazing about. But I'm not I don't wear strips. I much prefer a hoodie or stuff like that. You know what I mean? I'm not but I've seen loads of people, wearing their colours and all that last week, and I prefer a training t-shirt or something a bit more subtle. I'm not a strip wearer. Just don't feel. I'm 41, dude. I feel like my time's past. No Clifford 10 on the back. No, that's past for me. So I'm not a big fan of the tops. The most important for me is, are we winning and are we successful in them, and that's how they'll be judged. Because if we are, then they'll turn out to be fantastic kits that we'll all remember.
Yeah, I've spent an absolute fortune on kits, more vintage jerseys from yesteryear when shirts were magnificent.
Do you know which one I've remembered? Do you remember the red one that was black stripes and it had the black RFC in the middle?
Yes, I had that as a kid. I wish I still had it. That was
I had that as well. I really liked that one. I really liked do you remember the old purple one that was worn 94, 95 kind of around that time?
It's good luck finding one of those these days. That was phenomenal. That was a brilliant. Talk about third kits. That was the pinnacle for me. An absolute beauty.
I really liked that. I remember they wore it. I've debuted it in the cup that they do in the summer. They had Sampdoria, and they were 2-0 up in it, and then they got beat 4-2.
Yeah,
I remember they wore that one for that one. But I quite like them. There's a few that kind of start to spring to mind and stuff like that. So yeah, these are the ones that I like, Derek. But we'll just need to wait and see. That away kit, if it is real, if it's real, one, that guy's going to get sacked. Why would you do that? That's the height of stupidity. And two, if it is real, because we have to be on the verge of caution and stuff like that. Allegedly, if it's real, I quite like it. I'm sorry, I know that everybody I don't get up nor down. It looks all right. It's red, white, and blue. That's fine. Who are we going to get to play in it? That's what, how's Lawrence Shankland going to look in that? That's what I worry about.
Yeah. This is an interesting point. Mark says, reminds me of Andrius Velicka for some reason. I think that's the first ever mention of Andrius Velicka on this show. Actually, interviewed him for the website a couple of years ago now. Cracking big guy. And did a ton for Rangers as well. Talking about Walter signings back in the day, he was certainly another one that came in, maybe a few raised eyebrows at the time, came in, done a job, scored on the opening day at Falkirk, if you remember, the 98-09 season. And great guy. I think he's...
if I remember rightly, either Boyd or Miller, one of the two of them, I can't quite remember, on the way to the championship got injured. And Andrius Velicka came in and scored in 5 or 6 games in a row towards the end of that title run. And we needed somebody to score goals, and he was the one that came in. I can't quite remember. I would need to go back and look at it, but he certainly went through a 5-6 period of games where he scored in every single one, and he was very important to us in that kind of run. And somebody, mathematician out there, will be able to tell me, Stato, that knows everything exactly where Velicka came in. I'm pretty sure that he did okay when he was here. So, very, very much. These are the guys that you need in the squad, and we don't have that we need. That I'm talking about. So,
yeah, if he was playing now, he'd be first choice. I think Andrius Velicka certainly knew the way to goal. Excellent stuff. Right, we'll wrap up there. Big thank you to you all for tuning into the show as ever. Big thanks to Stevie as well. Whatever you're doing today, then have fun. Almost nearing the weekend already. Rangers back in action. Heading to St Mirren this coming Saturday. Just ahead of that game, Stevie, I would like to see, touched on Bailey Rice earlier, a number of the youngsters start the game. I don't see any reason why Barry sticks with the tried and tested now. Would you go along with that? Are you expecting changes?
I would go along with it. And here's where I think that we shouldn't judge Barry, because if we're now accepting the fact that Barry isn't going to be the manager, and if Barry accepts the fact that he isn't going to be manager, and we can all say Barry's done really well to come in and steady the ship and whatever you want to say about it, because he had an awful job to do. And I'm not going to criticise Barry in the slightest, because I think the hand he was dealt and everything else. And as a legend of the football club, 15 titles, to come in and put himself on the line. He's had his moments with the win in Fenerbahce, the win at Celtic Park, etc. So if we accept he's not getting the job, and if he accepts that, I would really like it if he said, I'm going to set up as much as I can for next season. So these 5 games might be really important for Clinton Nsiala to play every single game. Might be really important for Bailey Rice to play every single game. Might be really important for Oscar Cortez to play every single game. Might be really important for Hamza Igaman to be our number 9. So that we can see a little glimpse of, and I know they're glorified friendlies and it will not make any difference, but could we give them some experience? Could we set them up to go into pre-season feeling a bit better about themselves, etc., etc.? So these are the things that, and I don't think that we should judge Barry on that if he come out and said, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm looking to try and give a platform to these guys so that it helps the next guy coming in. But that would, I don't want Barry to, this is probably selfish from my point of view, but I don't really want Barry to sit and go, well, I want 5 wins because it'll make my record look really good. I'm not getting the job anyway, but I want 5 wins. I would like him, and this is difficult because, it would take a lot of understanding from the support, but I would like it if he came out and said, if I'm not getting the job, I would like to try and set things up for next season. So Clinton Nsiala will play in the remainder of the season, etc., etc. So that's only my thoughts behind it, and I would really like it if that did happen, then everybody got behind Barry and got behind the team and the youngsters that did come in for the last few games. Even though it's a Finlay Curtis and that, we're going to play these guys in the remaining 5 games, then hopefully we're understanding to that and why we're doing it and why we're setting it up for the future. Because what we've seen of Oscar Cortez or Danilo and things like that hasn't been the most positive in recent weeks. So can we give them game time to set them up into pre-season feeling a bit better and ready to go? Then yeah, that would be how I would go. And I would make it obvious to the support. I would tell them, this is why I'm doing it. I'm setting up for the next guy. I'm giving these boys experience. Let's hope the fans get behind me. It's not about me now. It's about whoever's coming in. So, and I think that if Barry was to do that and he was to come out and say, kind of, this is why I'm doing it, I think everybody would really like that and get behind him. So,
I agree. Yeah, I would like to see him doing that as well. Press conference, I think, it has been moved in recent weeks to the Thursday. So it will be interesting to hear from Barry ahead of that game. And there's Ali wanting to go out. I think, Stevie, I think that is a right
no, I
time.
think the guy's been here cleaning the windows and he's just posted the receipt through. Hold on, I'll shoot her. Oi, come in. Come. Right, that's it. Behave.
Fantastic.
So, she's here at my feet. So, yeah, this is why I go in here so that I got a wee bit of peace and quiet. And people were complaining because she taps about on the laminate flooring. So I get somewhere and then she just goes crazy when the people are cleaning the windows as well. So,
yeah,
what are you going to do? She's been out and walked and all that, Derek. She's in a good mood, believe it or not.
Yeah, fantastic. Excellent. Well, big up to Ali.
Sorry to bore everybody with that information.
No, more dogs on the show, I think, is something we need to strive to do here at the review. Everyone loves a dog to appear on the programme. So there you go. Right, we'll wrap up there. Thank you to you all. Enjoy your Wednesday, and we'll speak to you. Probably speak to you later, of course, after that fans forum. We will be back on tomorrow morning, 9:30 as ever, and we'll chat to you then. Bye for now.